Hello, this is Sara with Posh Pooch Designs, and today's video is how to make these fun headbands with Funfur trim and also make a matching one for your dog or pet. Now these have sort of a Christmas theme with the white. This one is a teal, which is pretty. But this is my favorite. This is a black. I'm going to move those out a little so you can see the sparkle in that. It's a black sparkle with the silver Funfur. And these are both yarns that I purchased at Hobby Lobby. Black with the silver thread going through it and the silver Funfur. And this is a headband I made for me. And this is a headband I made, or not a headband actually, but a collar. Although we've had some little fun with it and used them as headbands on the dogs. They work great at covering their ears. Now on this pattern, you can make it any length and you can make it any width. And I'll explain that to you when we get ready to do the pattern. For today's demonstration though, because black is really hard to see, I'm going to use this white sparkle. There's also, I love this yarn from Hobby Lobby, and this blue sparkle. And this is a Funfur that I've had on hand for a while. I'm not really sure where I got it, but I chose this one because it has a little bit less Funfur on it, and you'll be able to see my stitches better. So that's what we're going to use for our demonstration. So what you'll need is, you can do this with any worsted weight number 4 yarn for the body of the headband or collar, and then you'll just need some Funfur, and it doesn't take very much. And you know, Funfur, there's a ton. When you buy it, there's a ton on the ball, so you won't need very much. You're just doubling it and slip stitching the edges. Okay, so that's what you're going to need. We're going to be stitching with our F hook, H. We're going to be stitching with our H hook today, and you will need your tape measure. This is very important for this project, and of course your scissors. Now, before we get started, I want to talk to you a little bit about the sizing. The way it works is 4 rows of single crochet will equal an inch. So to add an inch of length, you're going to need to add 4 single crochets, or 1/4 of an inch is 1 single crochet. So if your dog's neck is 9 inches long, you'll need to add 4 rows per inch. That's for the length. Now for the width, if you stitch it exactly the 5 single crochets across the way that the pattern is written, you're going to get about 1.25 inches in your width. So basically you're going to do 2 single crochets per 4 single crochets per inch across. And this pattern is 5 single crochet. So if you want it to be a nice thick band, or say a nice thick head warmer, you're going to need to add 4 single crochets per inch. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. For today's demonstration, I'm going to make a dog collar, but it's done the exact same way as the headband. So we're going to start with a slip knot. And we're going to chain 6 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there are our 6 chains. We're going to be stitching 1 single crochet in each single crochet across. And we're going to start in the 2nd chain from the hook. So we're going to place 1 single crochet in the next single crochet, or this next chain. So we put our hook through, yarn over, pull a loop through, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, and go through both those loops. And we're going to do this across, and you'll have a total of 5 single crochets. One, 2, 3, 4, 5 single crochets. Now we'll chain 1. Chain 1 does not count as a stitch. It's just a turning chain, and that just means so that when you turn, your project lays nice and smooth. So what we're going to do next is we're going to place 1 single crochet in each single crochet across for a total of 5 single crochets. Chain 1 and turn. And this is exactly the way you'll do the entire length of your band. If you're making a dog collar or a headband, it's done exactly the same. Now, if you were adding width to make your headband or dog collar wider, remember you're going to need to chain 4 more single crochets, chain 4 more chains per inch to make it wider. This with the 5, it measures about 1 inch and a quarter. So you can add another 4, 4, 4, however thick you want to make it, for 1 inch worth of width. So 4 single crochets equal 1 inch for width. Now for length, you're going to need to add 4 rows per inch. Now remember, everyone crochets differently, and you may crochet tighter or looser than I do, and that's why every crocheter should have a tape measure within reach. This one is my favorite one because it has this little magnifying thing on it, but also I have inches and centimeters on here. And look here, I've got all my needle sizes here for knitting. But this is my favorite one just for measuring just across and things like that that are easy to measure. But I also keep one of these with me everywhere I go because I always measure everything as I go. You won't end up with it being too big or too small if you remember to measure. Next to your crochet hook and your yarn, your tape measure is your best friend. Alright, so I'm going to continue to stitch 1 single crochet in each single crochet for a total of 5 single crochets on each row for the length I need for Maximo's neck. And Maximo has a 9-inch neck. Now also, you want to make sure that the collar for your dog or cat or whatever pet you're making this for has a little bit of wiggle room. Now, yarn is very stretchy, and you can see the stitch is also nice and stretchy. So you don't want to make it too loose that it slides off their neck, and that's why it's a good idea to measure again as you go. Alright, so I'm going to continue stitching 1 single crochet in each single crochet across until I get the length that I need for Maximo's neck. So I've stitched the amount of rows of single crochet that I need for Maximo's length because his neck is about 9 inches. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take the band and we'll put the 2 ends together. Now, if you're making it for a headband, you're definitely going to need more rows, of course. So we're going to put the 2 ends together, and we're just going to single crochet across, going through both ends of the band. And you should have 5 single crochets because we're going through all 5 stitches. So we single crocheted across. We're going to cut our yarn, tie that off, and then we'll need to weave in those ends. Now, for the length, for the 9-inch dog collar, you can find the exact amount of rows that you need on the free crochet pattern that I have in the link. You can go to the link underneath the video, and there's a link that will lead you to the pattern. Also for the, it's about an 18 to 20 inch headband, also the one that I wore, that is also on the pattern for how many rows that you need for what I did to make it fit me. Now you will need to weave in these ends before we go any farther, because you don't want to have your ends in the way when we put our Funfur on. And so I just thread my needle and I just go through these stitches, and then I usually kind of go back where I came from and cut that. And we'll do that to our starting piece as well. Weaving in with the needle to me is the best way to do it, because I feel like it's going to hold better, because you're not just going through the holes, you're going through the stitches. Alright, so now we have our little band. That's the back side, so we're going to roll it over so it's on the front side the way that it's going to show. And the next thing we're going to need to do is add our Funfur. And I'm using this Funfur because it has less hair on it, like I said earlier. It looks like I got a little knot there. There we go. And you're going to need to use 2 strands. And you lay the 2 strands together. Go through your first stitch and pull both of those strands through. There we go. And we're going to pull that through. And the way I do this, because sometimes when working with Funfur, it's not stretchy, but you want your band to be a little bit stretchy. So what I do is I chain 1, and then I slip stitch in the end of the next row. So we're going to pull that through and slip stitch. Chain 1, and we're working down the sides of the row, so you're going to place 1 slip stitch in the end of each row. And like I said, the reason we add that little chain 1 in there is so that it stays stretchy. If we did it straight across, it wouldn't have any stretch. So chain 1, go through the end of the row, pull the loop through, and just pull that loop through the loop that's on your hook, and chain 1. And we'll do this all the way around our headband or our dog collar. And you can see how fuzzy that's getting. Isn't that cute? Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch just like I did all the way around. 1 slip stitch, chain 1, 1 slip stitch, chain 1, all the way around until I get back around here, and we're going to join. But when we get back around here, don't cut your yarn. I'll show you what we're going to do in order to do the bottom of our collar. So I stitched all the way around with my Funfur, and we're back where we started. I did my last chain 1, and I'm going to join to the top of where I started in that first slip stitch with a slip stitch, and then I'm going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And by doing that, we're making just a little chain so that we don't have to cut our Funfur, because this is the inside of our collar. And then we'll draw that down, and if it's too tight, you can make a 5 or a 6 chain. It's totally up to you. We want to make sure that it lays without gapping or anything. Lay across like that, and then join to the other end with a slip stitch and chain 1. And then we'll do around the bottom the same way we did around the top. We're going to slip stitch and chain 1. Slip stitch in the side of the next row and chain 1. Slip stitch and chain 1. Just like we did on the top, we're doing on the bottom, and we're going to do this all the way around, and then we'll join and tie off. And the reason I have you do that chain is that Funfur can be a mess, and the less amount of cutting, the better. And also, that's one less thing that we have to weave in when we're done. So let's continue around the bottom of our headband or dog collar or cat collar. Slip stitch, chain 1, repeat around. So I attached my Funfur all the way around, doing the slip 1, chain 1, and I did my last chain 1, so I'm going to join to the top of that first slip stitch with a slip stitch. I'm going to cut my yarn. Tie off. And we're going to turn it to the back side, and we're going to weave these in the same way that we did with the white ones. And sometimes weaving in with the Funfur can be a little bit tricky. And what I did to make it not so hard is I went in this white where I had stitched the headband and collar together, and then I went in that braid that we used to go across, and it just sort of gives you something to work with. And I did a couple of stitches like that, and then I just went back up. Cut that off, and I did the same thing with the bottom. Funfur can be a little tricky, like I said, and a little hard to work with, but don't let it intimidate you. There's so many fun ways to use it, and so many fun ways to add edgings to things. There we go. We'll cut that one off. Flip it back over, and there's our Funfur dog collar. Doesn't that remind you of Frozen? And that's how you do it. Really simple. Single crochet rows, and then chain 1, slip 1 for your Funfur edges. Now you could add buttons or bows or ribbons or anything you wanted to the headband or to the dog collar. Just remember, dogs do bite things, so be careful that it stays away from their mouth. But that's it. That's our Funfur trimmed dog collar and headband.